Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Sarah Stewart, the minister here. It is wonderful to have all of you with us on this cold morning. I'm leading worship this morning with our Assistant Director of Faith Development, Abigail Hannaford-Ricardi, and our broadcast tech, Charlie Morrow. Kate Sheehan and Karen Riley are both helping out as head ushers this morning, and Paul Belanger is telling our story. Our music this morning is provided by our guest pianist, Lisa Utzig. It's wonderful to have you back with us, Lisa. Sten Gustafson was to have played a piece on the piano, but he is sick. So we wish Sten all the best and hope you're better soon, and he'll be with us on another Sunday, I'm sure. Here at First Unitarian Church, we strive in loving fellowship to honor the sacred, connect with each other, and serve justice. We are a welcoming congregation. Whatever your age, race, class, or nationality, you are welcome here. Single people and families of all kinds are welcome here. LGBTQ folks are welcome here. Those of all physical and mental abilities are welcome here. The doors of this church are open to all, and we are delighted that you are with us today. I welcome those of you who are joining us online. You can like this video to help others find us and subscribe to our channel to find more content. If you'd like to get involved with everything we do together as a church, the best way to find out about all of that is our newsletter. You can go to firstunitarian.com and click subscribe to our newsletter at the bottom of any page. If you are in the Worcester area, I invite you to join us here at 90 Main Street every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. for worship and fellowship. Everybody is welcome to come to a social hour after the service through either of these doors at the front of the sanctuary. This door on my left is the accessible entrance. If you are a newcomer, please stop by the welcome table in the church parlor to pick up a gift bag so that we can get to know you better. We have information about the church. We have visitor forms. If you fill out a visitor form, you'll be added to the newsletter. You'll have a name tag next week, and I will be able to reach out in the coming week to introduce myself. And we have a goodie bag with some chocolates in it. Who will be at the welcome table this morning? Sue Shaw will be at the welcome table to greet you. There are announcements in your order of service, and I have a few additional announcements this morning. Everybody is welcome to join me for a further discussion about disability justice after the service today. That will be at noon in the chapel upstairs. Feel free to bring your coffee and snacks with you. There's an announcement about the Heartwood Medical Program, which is the free medical program that's now being hosted at First U on Monday nights. We are asking that if folks stay after coffee hour, that you help move our round tables out of the way and set up chairs in the Bancroft room. That just takes care of one step of the setup to make Monday evenings a little easier for our volunteers in that program. And then finally, we have for you today your statement of charitable giving to the church. I'm really grateful to everybody for your patience. You know that a little over a year ago, our longtime director of operations, Jennifer Bowes, retired. And we are still, a year later, learning how to do things without her expertise in the office. And we discovered this year that one of those things was how to prepare the charitable statements. So the process has not been without difficulty, but we do have them ready for you today. If you want to pick yours up in the Bancroft room, they're available. Lisa McWalters, our office administrator, will be there to help you. And then any that aren't picked up today are mailed. And we are continuing to improve this process, and next year we hope it will be smoother. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We bid you welcome, you who come with weary spirit, seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, we bid you welcome.
Carter is lighting our chalice this morning.
In the spirit of love,
We light this chalice. Please rise in body or spirit to renew the covenant of our church with the words printed in your order of service and appearing on your screen. In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all. Number 170 in your gray hymnals, We Are a Gentle, Angry People. seated.
Good morning. The tale of the day today is the story of Herman Unthan. In 1848, when Herman Unthan was born in East Prussia, he had no arms. Karl's mother looked at her baby and called him a gift from God, but when villagers looked at him, they said, "What sin has your family done to deserve this curse?" From the beginning, Karl's father made clear one thing: no one was to pity his son. When Karl was a toddler and tried to eat mashed potatoes with his feet, much to the horror of his guests, his father insisted that no one do anything for Karl that he could do himself. When Karl began playing with toys using his feet, his father declared that he be allowed to go without shoes and socks. So, Karl learned to do everything with his feet. By the age of 3, he could undress and bathe himself. By 10, he could fully dress in the complicated clothing of the time, fastening buttons, buckles, and laces. He learned to tie a bow tie and shave with a straight razor. He watched village children swim, then taught himself by filling his lungs with air and floating until his feet learned how to kick. Karl's mother was a seamstress. In the evenings, Karl sat at her feet and threaded all of her needles with his toes. The family lived outside the schoolhouse where his father taught. Karl hid under the tables during lessons, listening. When his father finally set him at a desk at age 6, he was astonished to discover that Karl could already read and could write neatly with his toes. On the family farm, Karl planted and harvested crops with his feet as fast as anyone using their hands. He walked a mile each way to buy fish for the family, carrying the basket around his neck. Still, the villagers never stopped saying cruel things. When Karl's 4-year-old brother died, neighbors told him, "God has taken the wrong one." When his other brother died a year later, they said it again. When Karl was 10, he announced that he wanted to play the violin. People laughed. At night, Karl locked himself in a room, strapped a violin to a stool, and practiced alone. 3 years later, his father knocked on the door, sat down, and asked him to play. And after hearing him, his father hired a violin teacher. At 16, Karl was good enough to attend a music conservatory. He went on to perform across Europe and later North and South America. In Mexico, when people wanted to transport him in a cart, Karl refused. Instead, he became an accomplished horseback rider, steering by attaching the reins to his stirrups. The child once seen as a curse became the one who supported his parents, sending money home throughout his life. At 35, Karl married an opera singer, and they toured together for many years. He built a vaudeville act that included not only the violin, but the flute, the cornet, the xylophone, and the piano. He performed card tricks with his feet and became such an expert marksman that he could shoot the spots off a playing card held by someone across the stage. Later, he appeared in silent films. During one shoot, he rescued a drowning actress by pulling her to safety with his teeth. Karl wrote beautifully in German, Latin, French, and English. During World War I, he visited hospitals to encourage wounded soldiers and wrote an illustrated guide for amputees, sharing practical advice and hope. He typed rapidly using sticks held between his toes. Late in his life, Carl wrote his autobiography, The Armless Fiddler, a Petascript. In it, he said, quote, "I have never, not once, felt that I should have been happier with arms." And of his parents, he wrote, quote, "They taught me faith, hope, and love. And of these, the greatest is love."
Good morning. I'm so happy to see that so many of our young people came out on this bitterly cold day. Wonderful. So we do have classes today. The Soul Matters class will be downstairs. I'm teaching with Paul and Vive. And then upstairs is our Coming of Age class. And I want to thank Meg, who has stepped up to work alongside with Steve, who's been there all along teaching that class. So thank you very much. We'll go downstairs.
Please join me in our common prayer printed in your order of service and appearing on the screen. God of interdependence, we rejoice in solidarity across disability, across marginalization, across all that seeks to divide us from loving our neighbor. We know that what harms one of us harms all of us. We give thanks for the myriad ways of living life. Recall to us the joy of relying on one another and being relied upon, of being one body, and call us to love. Amen. Please continue your own thoughts and meditations in silence. In this time of prayer and meditation, we share the joys and sorrows of our church with one another. Abby lights a candle in gratitude for our sextons, Dave and Tobin, who worked in the bitter cold to make sure our sidewalks and entryways were safe for us this morning. Mary McAllister lights a candle for her brother who is struggling. One among us lights a candle to ask for prayers for her husband. Bonnie Prescott lights a candle to ask for prayers for healing as she has been hospitalized with double pneumonia. Christine Croteau lights a candle with prayers for her sister Elizabeth Croteau-Calistad and her family and friends living in Northfield, Minnesota, 45 minutes outside of Minneapolis. Elizabeth says it's like a war zone and that she and many others no longer feel safe at all, especially standing up to ICE. Elizabeth asks us to contact our representative in Congress to protest what's happening in Minnesota. We light a candle in memory of J. Lincoln Spaulding, a member of the church, who died after a full life on January 6th. There will be a memorial service here on April 25th. Our prayers for peace and comfort are with his wife, Robin, and all their family. We hold these prayers of celebration, these prayers for healing and memory and hope in our hearts. And we know that there are those joys and sorrows that go unspoken among us. So we reach out to one another in compassion as we say together the prayer of Jesus. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I would like to invite up our newly elected moderator, Mike Willander, to join me. Two weeks ago, we held the annual meeting of the parish, and because of a snowstorm on that Sunday, we had to move the annual meeting online. Mike and I wanted to take a moment to repeat in worship some of the thank yous that we shared during annual meeting. It's the tradition of the church to thank outgoing leaders at annual meeting, and so these are the folks who were thanked and whom we are with full hearts thanking again. Carrie West for serving as clerk, Seth Popenchok for head steward, Jen Reedy, who has been our member at large on Prudential Committee, Hanya Bluestone, LLPC chairperson, Paul LaBelle and Kara Sanford for serving on the Leadership Development and Nominating Committee, Jane Beckwith, Karen Riley, and Jean McInerney for many years of service on the Personnel Committee, Lisa McWalters, who served as our Social Justice Council chairperson.
Amy Borg and Ken Hannaford-Ricardi, thank you for your work with the Heartwood Free Medical Program. Phil Bolduc, Bob Shaw, and the whole Buildings and Grounds Committee for keeping us warm and dry. Madeline and Rick Silva, the church sounds better for your work with the sound system, thank you. Matt Ron, we're more connected thanks to your work with the Wi-Fi networking. And Andrea Mattei and the Finance Committee, I did not know that finances could be creative until I saw your work. And Shannon Kirschenbaum and Sarah, thank you for standing behind Laura and I as moderators. And Laura, I want to thank you for your leadership, as well as for your Laura, I want to thank you for your leadership, as well as your willingness to be a mentor. Watching you has shown me how the moderator can bring one's own perspective and skills to build on the work of previous moderators and productively work alongside other lay leaders. You've answered my questions with thoughtfulness, shared your opinions with candor, and provided me with respectful yet honest feedback. Despite knowing that we'll still be spending time together as friends, I find myself already missing you.
Laura, I have appreciated so much about your moderatorship. I'm grateful for your strategic thinking and your focus on setting and achieving goals. I'm grateful for your steady hand at the tiller of governance and keeping Prudential Committee on course toward accomplishing those goals, usually in meetings of less than 2 hours. I'm grateful for your big heart that is always looking for who might need a kind word or a helping hand, and for who can be thanked for their gifts of time and spirit to the church. I'm grateful for your partnership and friendship these past 2 years. Let's have a round of applause for Laura and all our leaders. We have one more special thank you to make for this during this time of gratitude, so I'd like to invite John Myrick forward.
Surprise. As you all know, John Myrick stepped down from his role as Finance Committee Chair early this year and concluded a long tenure of service to our church. During our annual meeting on Zoom this year, I presented John with a lifetime of service recognition. However, since we were on Zoom, John and many of you were not present for the announcement. In addition, I think we can all agree that online lacks a little je ne sais quoi about thank yous. Therefore, it's my privilege to present this recognition again in person to my friend John. Thank you. I got more. I'm never at a loss for words, as you might know. Since well before my time in the church, John Myrick has been a pivotal leader for our community. He has served for many, many years, and most recently as chair of the Finance Committee. John's service began long before his term as moderator, which dates back to 1983. I won't tell you where I was in 1983. Further back, John served in numerous other roles, such as legal counsel and spouse to our former director of religious education, the late Diane Myrick. John grew up in Worcester and in First U. If you've had the opportunity to walk with him on his farm in Princeton, as I have, he would tell you about his time as a child and a young person in the church and the history of the family farm. On our walks, John shared his love of family, the central Massachusetts area, and of course, First U. When I first began my membership here at First U, John was one of the first leaders who showed me the ropes on what it means to be a leader of this church. With a steady hand and even temper, he modeled prudent deliberation and thoughtful decision-making, which was clearly demonstrated during his many years as Finance Committee Chair. In my humble opinion, John walks the balance between maintaining tradition while also encouraging and embracing change where and when most prudent. John has steered our church community through the highs and lows of our budgeting process, major building projects including the rebuilding after the fire and our last capital campaign, and numerous staffing changes. Despite his vast experience and deep knowledge of the history of our church and our governance process, John never disparaged new leaders or their ideas. John is always willing to embrace that which can make our community stronger. In so many ways, John served our community with an unwavering dedication, compassion, and strong commitment to his and our collective values. John, thank you for sharing your time, your talent, and your treasure and most of all, your love for this church and the mission and its legacy. We are so proud today to present a small token of our appreciation for your lifetime of service and your dedication to our First U community. Thank you, John.
Everything we do as a church is thanks to your generosity of time and money and spirit. I welcome your generous contributions this morning for the good work of First Unitarian Church. Our first reading is from the book of Exodus, chapter 4. This takes place after God has called out to Moses from the burning bush, giving him his commission to set the Israelites free from enslavement in Egypt. But Moses said to the Lord, "Oh, my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant. But I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you are to speak." But he said, "Oh, my Lord, please send someone else." Then the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, "What of your brother Aaron the Levite? I know that he can speak fluently. Even now he is coming out to meet you, and when he sees you, his heart will be glad. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what you shall do. He indeed shall speak for you to the people. He shall serve as a mouth for you, and you shall serve as God for him. Take in your hand this staff with which you will perform the signs. Our hymn is number 1031 in your teal hymnals, filled with loving kindness. Please rise and bow to your spirits. Our second reading is from the poem Special Vans by Laura Hershey. Laura Hershey was a poet, a queer activist, a feminist, and a disability rights activist. She lived with spinal muscular atrophy, was a wheelchair user, and was a leader in the movement for disability rights. She died in 2010. The city's renting special vans, the daily paper reads. The cops are getting ready for special people with special needs. The mayor's special CRIP advisor has given special training in moving all our special chairs when arresting and detaining. They've set up special jail cells in a building on the pier. They've brought in special bathrooms and nurses, never fear. The cops are weary of our bodies. They treat us in a special way. Special smiles, if you're lucky. Special brutality when you're in the way. The ones who run the nursing homes think they're doing noble deeds, locking up our friends in cages, special people with special needs. They put up special barricades to try to keep us out. Still we're in their face. Still we chant and shout. What's so special, really, about needing your own home? If I need pride and dignity, is that special, just my own? Are these really special needs, unique only to me? Or is it just the common wish to be alive and free? I wanted to start this sermon with a sports metaphor, and I think if we're going to start with sports, we have to start by saying, "Go Pats." That's right. The sports I had all along intended to start with were the Winter Olympics, which are on now. And after the Winter Olympics are over, the Winter Paralympics will begin. World-class disabled athletes will compete in their sports. One of the most decorated Paralympians of all time is the American rower, skier, and biathlete Oksana Masters. Oksana Masters was born in Ukraine a few years after Chernobyl. She had radiation-induced birth defects. Her parents couldn't care for her. And at age 7, she was adopted by an American family. Here in America, she received care, including an amputation of both her legs above the knee. She is a multi-sport athlete who has won 9 gold medals at Summer and Winter Paralympic Games. Her accomplishments are extraordinary. All the accomplishments of all of the Paralympic athletes are. Watching them compete, we can see that disability is not so much about what a body will and won't do, as it is access and inclusion to the shared goods of society. Oksana Masters' body can do things that my body absolutely cannot do, even though I have both of my legs below the knee. The difference in ability and disability is not the difference in how bodies function, but it is a difference that our society is made in terms of who gets included and who has access to the common goods of our shared society. Our worship theme this month and our theme for our Soul Matters group for the children is Embodying Resilience. And that spoke to me of health and several different sermons on different aspects of health. Our resilience in the face of disability is not the noble struggle of the single disabled person, even as inspiring as some of those stories are, inspired stories of Paralympians or of Herman Unthan, which we heard this morning. Resilience is not something that one person does alone in their own body. Resilience is shared, the work that we do collectively to make access to society available to everyone. And this is clearer with disability than with anything else, because if every single one of us is lucky enough, if we live long enough, all of us will become disabled. Disability justice is justice for all. Disability justice became personal for me over the past several years because during the final years of her life, my mother became more and more disabled with Parkinson's disease. It was interesting to have such an intimate view to the process of somebody becoming disabled. Some of what I saw was her own resistance to recognizing her disability. She did not want to use a wheelchair and suffered many falls because she didn't want to see herself as a person who used a wheelchair. And once she did find a chair that she liked and began to use it every day, she became happier and more able to do the things she enjoyed doing. My brother and I had an ongoing argument with her for about a year, a very slow motion argument about whether or not we should install a new kitchen faucet at the main sink in the kitchen. Their house is wheelchair accessible, but the kitchen faucet was not, and my mother had to stand up out of her wheelchair in order to turn on the faucet. And you can get a faucet that works just if you pass your hand along the bottom of the faucet, it turns on, so you don't have to stand up. She did not want to do that because installing that faucet just meant in her mind that she was a disabled person. And I remember saying to her, it might be better to be a disabled person who can turn on the faucet without risking a fall. And she did finally let us do it. I hope that that experience of loving my mother through that transition will stay with me. That when it is I who must use a wheelchair or add mobility aids to my house, I who must start to wear hearing aids or use a cane, that I will accept myself and the help that these aids will provide me. As the Buddha said, I am of a nature to become ill, and I cannot avoid ill health. Yet when that happens to me, when, not if, when I need aids for disability, which will come with age, I will be no less human for my disability. That's what I take from our scripture reading this morning, that Moses is no less human and no less the perfect person to be God's agent for the freedom of the Israelites than somebody who didn't have a speaking disability. We are all human fully, whatever our minds and bodies, whatever their abilities or disabilities are. Another thing that I learned with my mother and her disability was really how inaccessible the world is for a person in a wheelchair. And I am sure, although it's not my personal experience, but I know that this is true for a person who cannot see clearly or who cannot hear clearly. Restaurants, of course, have to be accessible to a wheelchair, and that can mean that there's no problem going through the front door of the restaurant, especially if you have a companion there to hold the door open. But then, once inside, the interior of the restaurant is too crowded to really allow a wheelchair through, and it always involved people moving chairs and moving tables so that my mom's wheelchair could get through. We went to the theater in Detroit together, and she had to enter and exit through a special door that was hard to find, that was separate from the regular entrance, and required coming early and leaving late. Some restaurants say that they're accessible, but then when you actually go to make a reservation, it's not true. These are common goods. Being able to go down a sidewalk, being able to enter a building, being able to work and live with dignity, being able to have a house that is accessible to your needs. These are common goods. These are things that everybody needs as part of their human life. And disability justice is the work that seeks to make these common goods, buildings, sidewalks, workplaces, homes, green spaces, just as available to people with disabilities as without. The work to get there is intersectional work involving justice for all bodies in America. There is a special hatred right now from the federal government, from people who are perceived as different from some imagined ideal, certainly for people of color, and we are seeing that daily in the news from Minnesota. But it is also hatred for all diversity. There is hatred for people with physical and mental disabilities and differences. Whether that's the president mocking a reporter with cerebral palsy at a rally during his first presidential campaign, or our Health and Human Services Secretary proposing an autism registry. Yet, as I mourn these attacks on people with disabilities, I think they are not so separate from attacks based on race or sexual orientation or gender identity. There is no one right way for people to be. There is no one right way for people to be. There is no ideal that we are trying to reach. We are glorious in our diversity, and it is right to work for a world of tolerance and justice for all. Laura Hershey, whose poem we heard this morning, was an activist who knew this truth. She lived with spinal muscular atrophy and was a wheelchair user. She was a poet, activist, essayist, wife, and mother. And her activism sat at the intersection of disability justice and queer justice and women's rights. She knew that the interconnected web meant that justice for any is a step toward justice for all, and that these parts of her identity were not separable from one another. It's not just disability rights or just LGBTQ rights. They are deeply connected. And I think, too, of how our interconnected web, that web that binds us together, it is woven through our shared work for justice for all. People are targeted separately based on those identities, but we resist together. Immigrants are threatened, yet citizens and immigrants together march. When ICE also threatens citizens, we know more clearly than ever that we resist together or not at all. Minneapolis, where the nation has witnessed government agents kill and kidnap people this year, was also George Floyd's home, also a man murdered by his government. From that crime came the cry, Black Lives Matter, and its truth still echoes in this moment. Because all lives only matter if Black lives matter. All lives only matter if disabled lives matter, if queer lives matter, if immigrant lives matter, if impoverished and desperate and even law-breaking lives matter. All means all. Hiding inside of a privileged category will not save us. Just ask Renee Good or Alex Preddy. As the old proverb says, we must hang together or we will surely hang alone. And this is especially true in the case of disability justice. Let me repeat something I said earlier. If we are lucky, we will all become disabled in our lives. If we are lucky, we will all love someone disabled. I was lucky to love my disabled mom. Our memories will fade. Our knees will lock up. Our balance will go. Our hearing will need assistance. The work we do now for accessibility and inclusion is work that supports everyone eventually. To be human is to be embodied, and a spiritual task is to know our bodies for a blessing. A blessing when we see and hear clearly and our movement is full of grace. A blessing when our sight dims and our ears stop and our step halts. A blessing because we are human, connected to one another and the source of all life. May we work together to make that connection available to all. I love you all. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 331 in your gray hymnals, Life is the Greatest Gift of All. Please rise in body or spirit to sing. Hold fast that which is good, render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the afflicted, honor everyone. Love and serve the holy, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit forever. Amen. Please be seated for our postlude.